inch, 5 foot deep? No, absolutely not. I can't do it. I could not get by with laying 3 people off.
I'm not suggesting it. I just want you to explain it.
Did I make that clear, man?
Thank you, Rick.
There says by the time it's advertised in like June or February.
That's just your resolution.
May would be very soon.
That's saying everything you guys were saying.
And do you need a second on that too? And seconded by Mr. John Wall. Have a roll call vote.
Robin?
Aye.
Frank?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes. So moved.
Are on the sewer now?
Well, a lot of the comments on the water can be duplicated on the wastewater. We're taking the financial study from March 2008 to September 2009, and we're seeing many of the same things. We're seeing growth in revenues a little less than what we anticipated, primarily because of the reduction in commercial flows. We're seeing expenses to be in line. We're not seeing any major changes in expenses, so it's all driven by reductions in revenue on the commercial users. I want to follow through page 2. We again have the scheduled revenues, expenses, and changes in net assets for the wastewater utility. Operating revenues have been fairly stable over the last few years, from 2007 through the 12 months ended of September of 2009. Not a lot of change, but there should have been change because the growth from on there. So we're not seeing all the changes there that we would have anticipated. The expenses that have been generated through that time have grown a little, but they've really been pretty stable from 2008 through September of 2009. If we look at the cash-related expenses, which does not include the depreciation expense, that's shown at $1,590,000 in 2008 and $1,587,000 for that 12 months ended in September of 2009. So the expenses have been pretty stable during that time period. Again, if we look to page 5, page 5, there's a comparison of the fund balances of each of the various accounts with the requirements that are set out in your bond resolution. Cash and investment balances at the end of September amounted to almost $4.1 million. What was required in the bond resolution was a balance of $3,567,000. So there's sufficient cash investments to meet those minimum requirements that are spelled out in the bond resolution, and have some funds, about $500,000 of funds over and above those minimum guidelines. So from a cash investment standpoint, utility is in good shape from a cash standpoint. If we compare these numbers to last March of 2008, we would find that the variance, the amounts left over in 2008, was about $1,778,000, and that's declined to about $500,000. And much of that difference has been due to capital improvements that have been made over that time period, and that's what those numbers are for, is for improvements. If we turn to page 7, we can start seeing the various costs that need to be accounted for in development of the rates, the first being the principal and interest on the bond payments. Page 7 shows the payments remaining on the 2000 bonds, the 2007 bonds, less the amount that's actually being funded from the TIF area for Honda. And that shows that the net bond payments that have to be funded out of utility revenues are at about $1,130,000 per year. So as we look at the rate design, we're going to want to make sure that we build in $1,133,000 per year to make sure we have sufficient funds to pay the principal and interest on those outstanding bonds. On the next schedule, which is page 8, we've gone through a similar analysis of the expenses. We found that the cash operating expenses over the 12 months ended September of 2009 were recorded at $1,587,000. We've made a variety of changes to that number for a lot of different reasons. We've made some changes to reflect changes in payroll costs that have changed over that time period. There has been some reshuffling of employee benefits and who's covered by the benefits and the level of benefits. We've had some activities such as the sledge hauling that has been incurred in the past, but because of the new plant, it won't be incurred in the future. So we're able to take those costs out. But there's a cost to operate the plant. There's been an increase in power costs, so that's been built into these numbers as well. So as we look through all the changes, the increases have just about all offset by corresponding decreases during that time period. So we're still looking at about $1,590,000 of expenses moving into the next 12 months. If those expenses grow at an inflation rate of 3%, we could expect those to grow to about $1,460,000 the following year. Again, inflation is something that we don't know exactly what that's going to be, but for planning purposes, we've built in a 3% allowance for depreciation for inflation. The last item is on the capital needs, and we've scheduled out anticipated improvements to the wastewater system over the next few years. That's on page 12, sorry. And the recurring expenses total about $2.3 million. There's about $500,000 of excess funds on hand. So that would leave a balance of about $1.8 million, which is an average of about $366,000 per year. So recognize we do have some funds on hand and improvement funds that can help pay for that. But we'll want to phase in rates sufficient to get us up to about that $366,000 per year range for rate purposes. Something that we're going to want to keep in the back of our mind, there's a list of other improvements that are a little beyond our planning period, but just to recognize that those other improvements are there. And so those might need to be funded with subsequent rate increases or subsequent borrowings, but we've not really fully addressed those at this point in time, but we'll want to bear those in mind for the future.
Just like if you look at the top item, Park Road, sewer base,